Climbing is in so many games. Your Uncharted's, Tomb Raiders, God of Wars. There are so many titles where you are ascending walls effortlessly by tilting your control stick, but real climbing is a different beast altogether. It requires careful planning, technique, physicality, and your complete focus. As a recreational boulderer myself, I've wondered whether there'd be a game that captures the essence of the actual sport. Peak took the world by storm and captured the joy of ascending mountains, but it's definitely on the goofier side with a strong focus on co-op antics. But at last, climbers finally get their game in Cairn. Climbing in games has never been better. Cairn is the latest game brought to you by the Game Bakers, the studio that developed the likes of Fury and Haven. We follow professional climber Ava on her journey to ascend the impossibly difficult mountain, Mount Kami. And right away, I want to highlight the gameplay. While in most games climbing is automatic, the whole point of Cairn is that climbing is incredibly manual. We take control of each of Ava's limbs, individually placing them on the holds to control her body position. It emulates actual climbing surprisingly well, turning every move into a small problem you have to solve. You're constantly thinking about balance, reach, and how shifting one limb will affect the rest of your body. Sometimes you'll stretch just far enough to grab the next hold, other times you'll have to reposition entirely to keep from losing your grip. Like actual climbing, Ava can only maintain a weak body position for so long, so the player has to really think about her limb placement and how good the holds are. There are times though where it's effective to go into a weak position momentarily to give you the extra reach to connect to a really strong hold higher up, adding some extra risk-reward decision making into the mix. The constant consideration of each limb placement creates this deliberate rhythm where progress feels earned and every successful move up the mountain feels like the result of your own careful move. The whole physics engine supporting all of this definitely deserves some props. And while the system obviously isn't perfectly realistic, there are definitely some wild body positions Ava can hold, it captures the spirit of climbing better than any other game I've played. What really sells it for me is how much the game asks you to pay attention to the holds themselves. Different holds require different grips, and Ava's hand position actually adjusts depending on what you're grabbing. Sometimes you're crimping tiny edges, sometimes you're grabbing a comfortable jug, and other times you're desperately smearing your feet against the wall, hoping it will hold. There's not really a UI indicator, but it seems that Ava's stamina drains faster or slower depending on the hold quality and her body positioning, making all of these details matter. It's been pretty neat seeing how my basic climbing knowledge affected my decision making and choosing which holds to go for. I love how mechanically simple the game is on paper, but the skill ceiling ends up being surprisingly high as you start recognizing better resting positions, more efficient movement, and smarter routes up the wall. The manual movement of Cairn reminds me of something like QWOP. Movement is clunky at first, but once the controls click, the game has a really satisfying rhythm to it. Of course, that flow can come crashing down at any moment. Not too different from rage games like Only Up or Getting Over It, making a mistake and failing a section can be brutal, losing you tons of progress. Making you angry isn't the main point of Cairn though, so it does have a few autosaves, checkpoints, and the pittance system to preserve your progress up the wall. They are limited, but placing pittance allow you to secure your progress midway up a climb, which feels both mechanically fair and thematically fitting. Deciding when to place them becomes its own little strategy, which is yet another nice layer of texture to the gameplay loop. But the star of the game is the mountain itself. There is so much detail and care put into Mount Kami, it really steals the show. First of all, the routes are really well made. The rock textures feel true to life with all sorts of different holds that feel like natural formations. Some parts are slabby, others are crimpy, and other parts are about crack climbing. It's quite impressive how much variation the devs crammed into this huge mountain, with so many different routes to challenge yourself with. A big part of real climbing is the observation, where you plan your route and moves to ascend as efficiently as possible. In Cairn 2, success and failure is often determined by the path you pick up the mountain and how well you understand the holds. I love how integral the observation camera is to the whole gameplay loop, really bringing that puzzle-solving element of climbing in real life to the game. There's a surprising amount of exploration packed here too. We've got corpses of past climbers to nab some valuable resources, secret caves of a past tribe that used to live on the mountain, even permanent power-ups to encourage you to explore beyond the obvious way upward. The mountain really makes the game, and the sheer size of the thing makes your progress up it feel breathtaking. When you finally reach the top of a major section, there's a genuine sense of accomplishment and relief. To top it all off, Cairn adds small touches that really sell the climber fantasy. You have to strategically rest your limbs to recover stamina. Gotta maintain your finger condition with climbing tape. and of course, apply some climbing chalk to gain extra grip. Supplementing the climbing are also some light survival elements as well, like managing hunger, thirst, and the cold. They're all fairly simple systems, but they work great at immersing the player into the world and encouraging exploration. Gameplay-wise, Cairn has so much going for it, but it does have a problem. Its main character, Ava. The story setup itself has got potential. Ava's goal to climb the insanely difficult mountain at the cost of personal relationships reminds me a lot of Alex Honnold's famous climb of El Capitan in the documentary Free Solo. Cairn tries to explore the tension between personal obsession and your relationships with the people around you, which sounds great on paper, but it's really hard to like Ava. She's just an asshole. Sure, part of her character arc is about how her obsession warps her personality, but she's so disrespectful to the people around her that it makes me actively hate her. She looks down and berates fellow climber Marco for wanting to head down the mountain early. Then she completely disrespects a more veteran climber with her awful cocky attitude. She can't care less about the messages of concern from her close ones, screams obnoxiously when she falls. She's so unlikable to the point where it's even sometimes a bit cathartic to take fatal falls just to see her ragdoll to her death. It's a shame because there's an interesting story to be had about personal ambitions, but Ava is so horrible it's hard to feel sympathetic or care about her story. There are also a few gameplay frustrations that crop up along the way. For as neat and flexible the climbing gameplay is, it can be inconsistent at times. There were moments where Ava could hold the most ridiculous body posture imaginable, only to randomly fall off much more stable positions. And depending on the texture of the rock face, getting Ava to connect with the exact hold you want can be fiddly. Especially later in the game when you get to do both rock and ice climbing, switching back and forth between your hand and ice picks can get a bit imprecise. You could say that the precision the game demands of you mirrors that of real climbing, but this is a game, and when you die because you grab a hold you didn't intend on, losing all that progress, it's frustrating. Lastly, I gotta mention that there's one long section in the middle of the game that's a pretty huge difficulty spike compared to anything before it, and arguably even harder than the final sections of the mountain. I like spiky challenges, but this part seems a touch overtuned for where it is in the game. Nitpicks aside though, Cairn is a fresh experience and I enjoyed the whole journey up the mountain. It captures the essence of real climbing better than any other game I've played. The careful planning, the slow progress, trial and error problem solving, it's all there. I think if you're both a climber and a gamer, there's especially a lot to love. But even if you're not a climber, Cairn is a solid game on its own. Check it out if you haven't already, and I hope you can see more climbing games like this in the future. Have you played Cairn already? What do you think of the game? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks for watching. If you enjoy content like this, be sure to like and subscribe to help support the channel. See you in the next one.